everybody. Welcome to my second video in my series of 5-minute grief. So the last video that I shot, we were looking at this idea of past and present, and we were looking at the way that I've got on the board behind me, grieving people, that is you and I, how I was before. We reside either in the past or we reside into the future. 90% of our time when we are thinking about our past is filled with regret and remorse, and only 10% of this time that we are in our past is actually over, excuse me, over fond and happy memories. So if you think about that just for a minute, you are spending 90% of your time thinking over bad memories, and only 10% of that is good. Um, that is when you're thinking about the past, which is most of the time. And if you're not actually doing that, you're then bouncing towards the future, which is made up of 90% worry and concern over the future and what's going to happen to you or what's going to happen. And only 10% of that time is now based on planning and constructive thought. So bouncing around between your past and your future is not what we want. And that is what grieving people do. Now, just want to have a look at this past for a minute. I know I looked at this in the last 5-minute video, but I really want to get this across. It's very important. If you are in your past, then obviously you're not going to be particularly happy. Happiness can only come from the point of now. This is where recovery is. This is where we want to get you so that you are in the present moment of now. Now, obviously, there's no delete switch. We can't just forget what happened to us. We can't just erase the past, as useful as that would be. It's not possible. But grief, in and of itself, is a normal and natural reaction to loss. And of course, we all want to not go through that. We all want to have this big delete switch so that we can just forget it and we can not go through the pain that we have to do. And of course, most people will numb out rather than go through that pain. And we'll look at this in other videos going forward. But most people will numb out with drugs, with multiple partners, sex, alcohol, and other types of behavior to distract themselves from the pain of the grief or the loss. Now, those things can obviously then create problems of their own, and then we start getting addictive behaviors, which obviously are not a way to deal with what happens to you. But you need to know that, numbing out with a glass of wine every night or a bottle of wine every night isn't the way to deal with your grief. It can be a temporary measure to take off the edge if you're hurting, but when this starts becoming a habit, it's not the answer. And maybe you're watching this video because you know it's not the answer and you are looking for what on earth to do. So I want to be able to obviously help you. That's why I do what I do, because I want to help you to find some deeper meaning to all of this and to move beyond it. So grief, as I said to you just a moment ago, is a normal and natural reaction to loss. Grief is a terribly painful event, and there is, as I said, no delete switch. We all know there's no delete switch, but we can move through it. We're not meant to go through grief on our own. We're not meant to isolate. We're not meant to not get through this. But if we're on our own and we're listening to a lot of the ill advice of people, even though they have good intentions for us, and of society as a whole, then it's very hard for us to get through it. We kind of get stuck in the middle because there is no answers. As a general rule, we're just not given any help when it comes to what to do after grief. We're kind of told to get on with it. We're told just to forget it, or we're told if it's from someone you love that has died, that maybe they're in a better place, at least they're not suffering, or we get other spiritual concepts instead. So these are given to us by people that obviously are trying to help. But in the end, a lot of these comments have actually been found to be very unhelpful and only a small sort of percentage of these things that we're told are told to be helpful. So, what are we to do? If you had a physical problem, you would go and see a doctor. If you had a fitness problem, you would go and see a personal trainer. If you had a weight problem, you might go and see a diet coach or a nutritionist. But when it comes to emotional problems, we are just expected to get on with it, and like we'll just get on with it, just muddle your way through, keep busy, just give it time. And I'm going to, once again, at future points, I'm going to be spending some time looking at these different cliches of grief. But we're given these sayings and quotes and ideas from people that have been given them the same advice. This has been passed down for generations, and obviously supported by movies and TV and the programs that we watch, in which the people on TV and movies are doing the same thing that people tell us to do. But it doesn't actually work. Mental health issues are, climbing and climbing, and people are suffering terribly with broken hearts and grief, and the prescription drugs that they're then given obviously help numb people out, and sometimes they're very helpful because it stops suicide. But on a long-term solution, it's not a solution. So we have to be able to kind of roll our sleeves up and be able to get through the pain of grief. But if we did it knowing that it's normal, if we did this pain, felt this pain, knowing that with correct action we can come through the other side, surely then it helps. Or if your support network knew that there was nothing wrong with you and that you need to go and get help, that means that if you're not over it within 2 weeks, or you're not over it within 2 months, well, this person must be losing it. Let's send them off to the doctor. You're not losing it. Who is anyone to tell you how long it takes to get over something, if you will ever get over it? Obviously, with the work that I teach, I want to get you over it. I want you to be able to keep the good memories. I want you to get over the pain. I want you to remember the time you had in your life, or with the people in your life. But I don't want you to be staying and being crippled by this pain and being crippled by regrets and remorse, as I've written on the board. Grief is about all of your undelivered communications, all the things that you want to say to that person that you can't say, either because they've left you, or you've left them, or they've died, or they're just someone in your past that you can't reach out to. And even if you did reach out to them, they wouldn't want to hear it. And even if you did want to hear it, they wouldn't hear it in the way that you want them to hear it. So there's a continual cycle of these undelivered, unspoken, unsaid things, and that leads to grief. So grief is about all of these complex issues, and I really want you to understand that there is nothing wrong with you to feel the way that you do, and that by reaching out and hopefully watching this video, at least you can take from it that the way you are feeling is normal. It's okay. It's not okay, and it's not okayness, but it's going to be painful. It's going to hurt, but there is a way to get through this, and numbing out medication aren't the way, and that there are people out there, my small company included, in wanting to really help you. But whatever you do, just know that it is okay, even though you don't feel okay, and that there is no time limit to this. But we do want to get you over the pain. So keep watching, look out for my next videos, and I'm going to take you through some of these things step by step. That's been a bit more than 5 minutes, this one, so I'll keep the next one shorter. Thanks for watching.